Sweden is a stunningly beautiful country. Here are the basic facts on Sweden, which is known for its furniture from IKEA, meatballs, and the Vikings. The total population is 9.905 million. The GDP per capita is $51,599.87. The area is 450,295 kilometers squared. The crude birth rate is 12.2 births per 1,000 population. The crude death rate is 9.25 deaths per 1,000 population. The life expectancy is 82 years of age. The fertility rate is 1.93 children born per woman. The child mortality rate is 3 deaths per 1,000 born. The population growth rate is 0.76%. The annotated graphs. This graph presents the number of births per 1,000 population in Sweden. It began in the 1800s, where it was 28.7 per 1,000 population. It decreases and increases irregularly and peaks in 1823. The crude birth rate gradually decreases between the years 1825 and 1930. It sharply fluctuates in 1944, which was the year of increased employment in Sweden. Most recently, the crude birth rate remains at 12.2 per 1,000 population. This graph presents the number of deaths per 1,000 population in Sweden. The oldest recording of the crude death rate in Sweden is in 1950, where the crude death rate lied at 9.83 per 1,000 population. It has a slight increase from 1950 to 1990 and surged in 1986 at 11.2 deaths per 1,000 population, which was the year that the Prime Minister of Sweden, Olof Palme, was assassinated. It then decreases until it reaches 9.25 per 1,000 population in 2015. This graph presents the number of deaths of children aged under 5 per 1,000 population. The graph began in 1800s, where it began with a terrifying amount of 381 children per 1,000 born. The child mortality rate gradually sinks throughout the years, never climbing. In 2015, it halted at 3 deaths of children aged under 5 per 1,000 population. This is because of the increase of child health care in the 1900s. Therefore, the child mortality rate began to decrease only and never climb. The life expectancy soars over the time frame of 200 years. It only ever increases and rarely decreases. Between 1800 and 1880, the numbers are scattered and unclear, fluctuating up and down. Many of Sweden's celebrities died in 1990, where there was a sudden drop. The total fertility rate in Sweden began at 2.28 in 1950 and rockets in 1964 with a total fertility rate of 2.48. It becomes irregular between 1965 and 2010. The fertility rate surges slightly in 1990. Due to the increase in healthcare, especially for children, the total fertility rate has leveled out and now retires at 1.93 births per woman. The GDP per capita has a steady rise throughout the years and only ever increases. It began at 1,410 in 1800s and ended at 14.9 thousand in 2015, which is the most recent. The most common jobs in Sweden are assistant nurses and hospital ward assistants, with an average salary of 25,000 SEK, which is $2,985.25 US. The population pyramids. This population pyramid shows the population of Sweden in 1960. There is a low life expectancy and only 4% of the population makes it over 70 years of age, and no one makes it over 80. The highest percentage of the population resides in the 10 to 14 age barrier. Higher death rates result in a lower life expectancy. The percentage of the working age barrier is quite low. This population pyramid shows the population of Sweden in 2010. Only a small percentage of the population live over 80 years of age. The working age barrier maintains a constant percentage of the population with an average of 3.2% of men and 3.1% of women. The ratio of men to females is close to leveling off, but there is still a larger percent of men. This population pyramid shows the population of Sweden in 2060. Most of the age barriers have the same percentage of population, from 0% to 3.2%. The ratio of female to men have a very slight difference in the different age barriers. Once again, only a small percentage live over 80 years of age. Overall, Sweden has a healthy population distribution throughout the different age barriers. The maps of Sweden. Sweden is a country with an area of 450,295 kilometers squared. The northern border Sweden shares with Norway is lined with the Scandinavian mountains. Most of Sweden's big cities lie inland. The capital of Sweden, Stockholm, lies in the southern area. Sweden has different climates throughout their land. The northern borders that are lined with the mountains are considered tundra. The land just below the tundra is viewed as subarctic, and below that lies the humid continental. Lastly, in the southern region, where Stockholm lies, is an oceanic state. Sweden has the warmest summers of the Nordic countries, with an average temperature that can vary between 13 degrees Celsius and 23 degrees Celsius. In the winters, the average temperature is usually between negative 22 degrees Celsius and negative 3 degrees Celsius. The northern mountain regions of Sweden are not inhabited by human life. The average amount of people living in the big cities such as Stockholm, Gothenburg, and Malmö is usually over 5,000. Around the outskirts of the big cities, the population is usually between 150 to 5,000 people. There is a low population in the northern areas and a higher population in the southern areas and inland areas. Migration in Sweden. Sweden, 1880. 3,009 people moved into Sweden. 42,009 people moved out of Sweden. Sweden, 1960. 26,143 people moved into Sweden. 15,133 people moved out of Sweden. Sweden, 2010. 95,750 people moved into Sweden and 44,908 people moved out of Sweden. Sweden, 2016. 163,005 people moved into Sweden. 45,878 people moved out of Sweden. Sweden is a popular place for asylum seekers from different countries, especially Syria, due to the Syrian war and Afghanistan. In 2015, 50,000 Syrians immigrated to Sweden, searching for asylum, and roughly 40,000 Afghans. The 5 main reasons people migrate to Sweden in 2015 are family, asylum, the EU/EEA, the European Economic Area, they're returning Swedes, they're coming for work, or they're coming for their studies. The dependency ratio. The age dependency ratio, the percentage of working age population in Sweden, was 59.30 as of 2015. The population plan. The population plan for Sweden consists of increasing the life expectancy rate through the usage of better healthcare and support for the elderly and those in need, such as children, sick people, or mentally ill. The second point is to maintain the child mortality rate. Sweden's mortality rate is only 2.7 per 1,000 children born to be exact, and this is a good rate to stay at over the next couple of years. The third point is to increase the total fertility rate. The total fertility rate currently resides at 1.98 children per woman and should be raised to 2.5 to 8 in distribution throughout the lands of Sweden. Sweden's demographic position. Sweden is in the 5th stage of the demographic transition model because the development in Sweden has gone up pretty high since the 1800s. And also because the death rate is now above the birth rate. The death rate is 9.25 per 1,000 population, and the birth rate is 12.2 per 1,000 population, which describes that Sweden is in the 5th stage of the demographic transition model.